Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Bristol Town Council meeting of September 19th. If you could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Welcome. We're going to start off this meeting this evening with a presentation from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. And I'm going to ask Diane if you could introduce the people that are here, or at least start this off for us.
Sure. So back in April or May of this year, we received some good news about our application for the community rating system. And you might recall we got approval to be in a Class 7, which is a good rating, gets more discounts for everybody who has a flood insurance premium in the town, including the town. We celebrate that tonight with Melinda Hopkins from REMA and Molly Kaput from FEMA.
Welcome.
Who have a plaque to present to the town, which we'll display so that everybody who comes in knows that we are now in a Class 7 CRS rating. And I don't know, they might explain a little bit more what that means, but they're here tonight.
Welcome to both of you.
Thank you very much. Melinda Hopkins, I'm Molly Kaput from FEMA. On behalf of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, I would like to congratulate the town of Bristol for increasing its level of participation in the National Flood Insurance Program's community rating system. Throughout the United States, there are over 20,000 communities who voluntarily participate in the National Flood Insurance Program. 40 are in the state of Rhode Island. To join and remain in the National Flood Insurance Program, each community must meet certain minimum criteria. A small number of these communities, approximately 5% of the national total, choose to go above and beyond the minimum requirements. This additional effort produces activities that result in safer communities that are more prepared for future flooding events. The program includes 10 different class rating levels based on the number and type of activities voluntarily initiated by the participating community. Each level corresponds to a percentage discount on national flood insurance policy premiums within the community. As a member of the Community Rating System Program, Bristol is within an elite group of 10 Rhode Island municipalities that have received this recognition. Today we are here to acknowledge the May 1st, 2018 upgrade in Bristol from a Class 8 to a Class 7 Community Rating System community. The town is one of 4 communities in the state that have achieved this rating. Perhaps more tangible and more important to the citizens of Bristol is the increased discount to flood insurance premiums. The Class 7 rating qualifies eligible National Flood Insurance Program policyholders in the town an average of $200 in savings on their annual flood insurance premium, with some policies qualifying for over $300 in savings. This amounts to a total savings of over $100,000 annually for the citizens of the town of Bristol, an increase of $30,000 from the Class 8 rating. Bristol's leadership, hard work, and accomplishments in floodplain management are to be celebrated and commended. On behalf of the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the National Flood Insurance Program, thank you very much.
We'll take a round of applause on that one, right? Thank you. Thank you. Let's give it a look for everybody to see. You guys stand. I know. That's really nice, isn't it?
There's a 7 on there.
Good, good.
That is absolutely phenomenal. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Savings.
I'll leave that right out in front for everybody.
Thank you so much.
So as you heard, this is wonderful, not only from the hard work that Diane and her staff did, but this is wonderful for the people of Bristol. This is not just this is another way to save. It's another way that hard work is happening to make Bristol that much more attractive to live in. And the people that have lived here a long time and already knew that it was attractive, we just saved them some more money. So congratulations. Thank you for all that you did. So,
If I could just give a
Of course you
recognition
can.
to some folks who helped us along the way. Melinda, for sure, her staff kept encouraging us to go for this higher rating. And then it was a lot of effort on the behalf of folks. Richard Pimenta did a lot of the work documenting the requirements that we had to meet. Ed Tanner, Kevin McBride, the fire chief helped us out, and even Joan Prescott with putting resources and materials at the library, which earned us points as well. So it was a real good team effort. And then documenting all the work that we did, submitting it to FEMA and having it be approved was really the crown. So thank you for all of your support, too.
Sounds like a team effort, and thank you for coming and sharing this with us.
So all the hard work, other than savings for our residents, positions the town of Bristol as a coastal community. As you said, the ratings in other coastal communities, it positions us of all the hard work of stormwater resiliency. I think every coastal community doesn't have a choice nowadays. That's what they should be striving for. That's what we strive every day here in Bristol, and we all benefit on behalf of our residents and all the hard work on behalf of the team. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diane, for your hard work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Clerk.
Agenda is the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is the submission of minutes of previous meetings. You have item A1.
Motion to approve?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next is an advertised public hearing. This is based upon the petition of Elizabeth Brito, the owner of 1776 Liquors Limited, doing business as 1776 Liquors, 597 Maritime Avenue, request for transfer of the Class A liquor license to Joseph M. Brito Jr., new owner, stockholder, 1776 Liquors Limited, same DBA and location.
So this is a public hearing, so I'm going to open the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak in favor? Is there anyone here to speak in favor? Is there anyone here to speak in favor? Is there anyone to speak against? Is there anyone to speak against? Is there anyone to speak against? Hearing that, could I have a motion?
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second?
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. What's this council's pleasure?
Motion to approve the transfer.
Second?
There's a motion and a second to approve the transfer. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay, the next item is...
Actually, if we could, we should just, we have D2, which was related to this agenda item, which was a Sunday, request for Sunday sales. If we could, do we need a motion to move that forward? No? Let's just combine that. If we could have a motion in that so we can put
So
this all
moved.
together.
Second?
So you have a motion and a second to approve the Sunday sales license. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay, the next item then would be item C1. This is the, I'm sorry, C1, okay. For some reason, I ended up with a double-sided agenda today. This is the second reading for adoption of ordinance 2018-14. This is in amendment to the town code to remove 1/2 hour parking space on Bradford Street.
Motion to approve the second reading for adoption?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Just to remind everybody that this is an ordinance change. There is a half-hour parking of what used to be Sam's Pizza.
Pizza.
Yes, and it was suggested by Ray Falcoa that that be removed because it's no longer needed to open up more parking in the area. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman, members of the Town Council, is the petition of Carolyn Almonte for Our Lady of Mount Carmel School, PTG, requests council consideration for a bingo license for events to be held on September 28th and November 2nd, 2018. You have recommendations from the Town Administrator, Fire Chief, and Chief of Police to approve.
Motion to approve bingo license request?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman, D4, and also related to this is item
F1.
F1 is respectfully withdrawn on behalf of the petitioner. These were all related specifically to the sale and consumption of alcoholic beverages, and they are going to be having the event without that addition.
So we just need to receive and file?
You can receive and file, and I will also note, for the record, is a late item recommendation that came to the police department, which will be included in the record, just to provide some further guidance to the council as these come up in the future.
Motion to receive and file.
Second?
There's a motion to receive and file in a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay. The next item then would be the public service appointments for September. You have the 4th of July committee proposed membership list as provided by the committee itself.
Motion to approve as stated?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And then we have the planning board. This is the second auxiliary member to fill an unexpired term in July of 2021. We have several individuals who have requested appointment. We took the liberty of including those same individuals on the scheduled interviews for next week.
Excellent.
So if you would you really don't have to take any action on this one, except that I believe that some of them haven't specifically been before you before, so it's just a matter of putting it into the record.
So we'll just put it into the
You
record
can-
that we're
you can just-
identifying
you can say-
the applicants, and
Right.
as specified by the
I think-
clerk,
I think-
will be on the September 25th meeting of the interviews.
Exactly. Thank you.
Second?
Is that a motion? Lou, did you need a motion to that effect?
Well,
Which you
just for the
heard?
record, I
Yeah,
just...
I mean, that-
And you had a second?
Yeah,
All in
I
favor?
think we're okay.
Any opposed?
Yeah.
Thank you.
When these things overlap, it's always confusing as to what to do with them, but I think you handled it just fine. The next is Conservation Commission. This is to fill an unexpired term to expire in December 2020. Similar situation. Okay.
So same motion. Is there a second?
Second?
I heard the first motion
I
from
said,
Ed.
it's so moved as my previous motion.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that?
We
All
are
in
very
favor?
precise about
Aye.
our records.
So we had all in favor. Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay.
Save these so I can-
The next item is item I-1. This is the petition from Richard Ferreira, the General Chairman of the Firemen's Memorial and Welfare Committee, the Bristol Volunteer Fire Department, requests council support for their 63rd annual fundraising program book.
Lou, can I just make
Yes.
clear one thing? I know that there were two. We did, that motion covered the two, right? One was for the Conservation Commission, and one was for Planning Board.
Planning Board, yes.
Okay. all right.
Absolutely.
Just to make sure.
I checked with the clerk prior on this agenda item. I checked for what our sponsorship was last year,
Oh, good.
and it was the highest, which was the 100.
Great.
Motion to approve 100 for the 63rd annual fundraiser program book for the Bristol Volunteer Fire Department Firemen's Memorial and Welfare Committee.
I'll second the motion. Thank you,
There's a-
Chairman, for checking.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion?
I would just suggest that you add to the motion that this would be derived from your contingency.
And this will be derived from our contingency,
Thank you, sir.
all funds that were specified.
Second?
Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item was put on this agenda at the request of Councilman Tiska at the last meeting, and this is, as the council termed, a discussion regarding senior citizen exemptions.
So we had a little bit of discussion, and I'm going to ask Councilman Tiska to speak a little bit more on this one. We had requested at the end of that discussion to get some baseline for other communities and their discounts and how it also kind of pertains to the larger picture with costs of living in other communities, including property tax, such and so forth. But I know that, Michelle, you had gotten some information that just came in front of us. Could you share that? And Andy, did you want to preface anything before she did that?
I think Michelle can start, and maybe I can comment after.
Excellent.
Okay, so I was able to gather most of the senior exemptions from other towns. And it's a little difficult to compare Bristol to a lot of the other cities and towns because there are many restrictions on their senior exemptions, such as length of residency, Many other cities and towns have income restrictions. Bristol is straightforward. If you are 65, you get $250 off of your tax bill. I did a chart, as you can see, of towns nearby. We are kind of in the middle of them. Barrington does a straight exemption of $200. Middletown is a little bit higher at $500. Portsmouth is $240. I did include Warren on here, but they do have a residency restriction on theirs. It is 1 year. Overall, I would say that we're in the middle. Like I said, it's hard to rate us in comparison to the other towns. We don't have the restrictions that they do.
So I had asked Michelle prior, just a couple of minutes ago, how did we compare, and this wasn't something that we're ready to answer tonight, but I asked, how's our tax rate in comparison? Yes, the discounts might be right in the middle, but is the tax rate, is the overall cost
Our tax
much
rate,
more advantageous locally?
Our tax rate was, I believe, 9th in the state for this year. And what we give for our senior exemptions adds about 22 cents to that tax rate currently.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, thank you for putting this together, Michelle. You're just, again, just looking through this, the data you provided shows that only 8% of our population applies for this tax credit. Our town of Bristol is made up of 25% of our population is age 60 or older. So that's my first sort of number that I look at. So we have 8% of people are taking advantage of this tax abatement break. 25% are eligible, and I wonder why that is. Is it because it might be because of need, but something is telling me that might not be the case, because I hear a lot from our seniors about the difficulty in making their tax payments. Taxes continue to go up. So that's my first question, and I don't expect you to be able to answer that. The second question is when this was last looked at comprehensively and updated, because just like any program like this at the town, it's sometimes they're put in place but not looked at for a while. And the needs of our seniors are changing. The financial demands on our seniors are changing. And I think it's important as a town we understand what those needs are as they relate to paying the tax bill and what we're doing to help our seniors. At the same time, I think we have to be aware that if only 8% of our population is taking advantage of this and 25% are eligible, what happens if 20% of our population starts taking advantage of this and the $544,000 tax break exemption that is given doubles? And are we prepared for that? And what does that do to the tax rate for the rest of our citizens? So I think there's a lot of moving parts to this. And I think that it's a topic in line with some of the other things that we're talking about as a town, our fireman's tax credit, and our veterans tax credit. And I think this is in line with all of those, and it needs to be looked at, I think, frequently to make sure that, one, the seniors are protected, but also all taxpayers are protected at the same time. And I'm not sure that we're prepared to do that today, but I would hope that this council can continue to maybe set aside procedures and policies to make sure that these things aren't just put in place, put on the shelf, and not looked at, to make sure that they're relevant as time goes by.
Maybe we could refer this to the administrator and to Michelle, tax assessor collector, and Julie, and have this as part of our conversation to be considered as in our next budget cycle, because that would be the most appropriate time, in my head at least, to have this considered. And you brought up a really great point, is that if you are correct with the 8%, apparently you did some math really quick
Well,
here.
22,000 people I'm
I
estimating,
like that.
and 17,000.
It sounds like a lot of people aren't taking advantage of it, and it's there to be used. It's there. It's not a best-kept secret. It's something that is there to be used.
And just to clarify as well, the only time we deny anybody a senior exemption is if they are not a resident of Bristol, if they are snowbirds and go down to Florida and they are filing their income taxes in Florida, they are not eligible for the senior exemption here. So that will take care of some of the percentage that are not taking
That's a good
advantage
point.
of it, but it's obviously not the full.
When you kind of uncover there's reasons for it.
Right.
But it sounds like even with that, there's probably people that aren't taking advantage of it
Right.
that could. And they should.
If you look at my list there as well, the majority of the seniors that are taking advantage of it are over 75. So I think that a lot of the younger seniors maybe either don't know of it. We do try and pay attention to the accounts when they're paying in person to say, hey, you're eligible for this exemption.
That's good to
You
hear.
get a few that way, but
Can I ask you just a couple of questions? Not questions, but just something to take under consideration as we think about this, so I don't forget. One is, I think Annie mentioned, is how long since we've made a change to this, and reviewed this particular. I see a lot of them, just skimming this, and it looks like a lot of them have residency requirements. So I'm just wondering if we have an issue with residency, putting on like a 2-year or some amount of residency.
we
Maybe
don't
it doesn't
currently
matter.
have any restrictions.
No, I know right now we don't. So like that may be a way to offset something.
Right.
Whether or not, and I don't know, because we say 75 plus, but if it's like 75 to 79, then maybe 80 and over. And then the other thing about the younger, the younger side of this, would it be appropriate, and I don't know if these other people do, like if people are still working at 65, 68, 60, whatever, still working a regular job and are not retired, is that something that maybe, I know they'd be eligible just by virtue of their age, but that may be something where you can give something to people who are on fixed incomes and trying to maintain their homes while they're, and not so much on the younger side. I'm just, raising the point. Some people are. Some people retire at a very young age, but...
Right. And that's also part of, a lot of the other citizen towns do the income requirements. They have a set exemption for anyone who's 65, and then a different tier for those who have less income. I believe most of them go by HUD requirements.
Go by what? Oh, HUD. Yeah, I would say that I wasn't looking to go like quite that potentially extreme. I'm just saying that there's a difference between people who are on fixed incomes, whatever that may be. I mean, if you were making $100,000, now you're making $30,000 or $40,000, you're trying to maintain your home. That's still a big difference. Do you know what I mean? But then
Right.
within that group, there may be people who are significantly less. So, I mean, I think the HUD requirements would maybe come after that even. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of ways you can look at it. I'm just like raising some of these questions as down the road. If we're going to consider it, just to look at that, the older side, the younger side, and as far as working, and the time since we have made a change to this, and maybe potentially a residency.
I think other than possible changes, aside from the exemptions, is we had conversations in the past, and right now we're talking about seniors, and I know you have to put it as a whole when you talk about exemptions budgetarily wise, when you talk about a fireman's exemption, a veteran's exemption, when you're sitting here with a budget, how does that have a bearing effect on the tax rate? But right now the topic is seniors, and thank you, Councilman Tiska, for this topic, but other than the exemption, we have talked about in conjunction how important it is and vital to convey to our seniors, and I know it's happening, but we had talked about all the resources that we have to provide and make our seniors well aware of what the town of Bristol is doing for them. As Councilman Tiska said, we talk about things, we have a lot on our plate, but we have to be mindful to have that conversation again and getting everybody together to work on that and to whatever is known that is available for benefits. I know the departments do a great job, whether it's the Senior Center, Benjamin Church, Town of Bristol, whoever we throw in the mix. But we had talked about in the past to have everybody on the same page, and looking forward to that conversation because I don't think it really had a full fruition of coming together. And this will tie in together going forward for our seniors because we all care about them. So I think at the end result, this will be fitting in the conversation as well. So what the town of Bristol can provide for our seniors. It's great that you had the comparison. I appreciate that. But we have to consider all the factors when it contributes to this and what's the best fit for Bristol and what can we do for our seniors and what's feasible. So thank you.
Just one other thought that I had, if you don't mind. I think like it might be beneficial for whoever's on the council at the budget time to maybe there's so many options. Maybe if you just did a few scenarios between now and next March, just like if you did this and you did this and you did this, like, you know, if you were to, I'm just pulling out like Hopkinton's 10, like a percentage, or if you change this and you gave people on the, you know, the more elderly, you know, like if you just did this and you put a residency in, like what would it be? Like you must have, I don't know if you have that data. But if you did, you don't have to like go crazy with it. But I think a few of them might be interesting because it might all come out the same or it might come out like different. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so.
I agree. There's some best
I think it's a good
practices
idea.
that could
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah, I just had a question about balance again, because we're going to need to take a look at the demographics of the town for spreading out for the next 10 years and what the budget and what we're going to have to look at. Because if we have baby boomers that are now aging and they're now going into retirement, as you know, and you probably have that data of how many people, and it seems like the criteria is you hit 65 and then you get $300 if you're a resident, not a snowboard, correct?
Right.
And if you own multifamilies, like a couple multifamily homes, you get
Multifamily-
300 too? Or
Multifamily
for
still
each?
qualifies, but you must reside there.
So it's just your primary residence.
Just your primary residence, okay. Yeah, so I think my biggest thing is just making sure that we don't become upside down where we're, you know what I mean, we're just having to make the money up somewhere else to sort of, you know, it doesn't give them much of a tax incentive if we're just raising taxes to make up for the difference.
Right.
Right.
You
that's
know,
true.
so that's the biggest thing I would want to see is where we are demographically and where we're moving to over the next budget seasons. Thank you.
Okay.
And also what happens with the reval.
It's exactly.
Yes.
So there's a lot of moving parts to make this happen. Okay.
Thank you.
So is Andy, would you be comfortable with referring it?
I think that's a great idea to refer it for consideration prior to the next budgeting process.
As part
to
of
look
it,
at
yeah.
other options and their impact on the overall budget and tax rate.
Is there a second to that effect?
Second.
Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thanks for the hard work, Michelle.
The next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is item I3. This is a presentation on the economic impact study results of the Black Ship Festival from the Economic Development Coordinator.
Chris?
Good evening. Before I start, I just wanted to hand these out to you guys, so follow along with me.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, the color version.
Thank you.
Well, first off, I just want to thank our guests here in the audience, Dr. Pat Conley and Rob Winnick, who is here from the Japan America Society.
Welcome.
They were very eager to hear about these results, and I'm eager to share them. So I just want to give a little bit of context to this. So back at the beginning of the year, when we were determining our sponsorship for this event, the council asked to try and collect some data and see what was the impact to the town of Bristol. And hopefully it was a positive impact. So earlier this summer, we were fortunate enough to get a grant to sponsor this study by the Rhode Island Foundation through their community grant. So that covered the majority of the cost of this study. We had contracted out Advantage Marketing information out of North Kingstown to complete it and collect the data along with some volunteers. So I just wanted to go over a few of the highlights here. So over the course of the weekend, the total number in attendance was 3,514 people. Now, the people came from really all across the state. 51% were from right here in Bristol, another 10% from the other towns here in East Bay. 23% were from a collection of other towns in Rhode Island. And it's interesting to note because not one town was more than the other. They were all about under 3%. So,
And Chris, just sorry to interrupt you, but that 3,500, just so I have context, is that a good number, an okay number, or what's the top and the low? So I just have, I understand what you're going.
So for an event this size, this was the pilot year for the event being in Bristol. Based on the event organizers, this was one of the most successful years that they've ever had. The fact that it was a pilot year, the fact that we started really getting the word out there a little bit later than we would have liked to. There's definitely room for improvement, but I think that this was a success, in terms of the amount of people who came and the amount of positive feedback we got. So,
Excellent.
We had 10% people come from Massachusetts, so we really attracted people from all over the country and across the seas, too. The majority of attendees were at the Arts and Crafts Festival. People in attendance, they were primarily couples and families of four, so it really attracted families out. It was a beautiful weekend out there for those who were able to attend. What I found interesting was just under 71% of people said that the festival was either the main reason or a very important reason why they came into town. So the money that was spent, it might not have been spent if the festival wasn't going on over the weekend. So I found that to be very interesting and very encouraging to know that when there are activities that are going on around town, it really does provide a boost to our businesses. In terms of attendees recommending it, just about 2/3 of attendees said that they'd highly recommend it. So, certainly there's room for improvement there. I think part of it was that there's an education piece to it, what the festival's about, what's offered, what isn't offered. I know a common question was, where are the black ships? But that's something that I think as more residents understand the history behind it, I think they'll welcome it. And then the real number that I want to share with you was the total economic impact, which was approximately $100,000. So this spending does not count for any spending that happened outside of Bristol, and it does not include spending that the organizers did actually put it on. So our sponsorship and others who contributed to this event, those numbers aren't included in this. So the real number is probably significantly higher, simply from the amount that we put in, the amount that other organizers have put in. So this is a very encouraging number. When you look at the consumer spending, it is pretty even across the board between food, lodging, visiting our attractions, our retail businesses downtown. They all got a nice bump over it, and this was something that just really happened over that day and a half of activities. So just based on some feedback that we'd gotten, through our surveys and on the ground, was a lot of people didn't know about the event till the last minute. I think that was part of really getting all of our ducks in a row here for the first year. If this is something that the council wants to support going forward, we are in a position where we know what to expect, we know what we need to plan for, and we can get the word out sooner to residents and business owners who may want to get involved. People were looking for more of everything at the festival, so they loved what was there, and they wanted to see it more and see us really build on it for the future years. That includes more retail, artists, food, entertainment, music. I mean, people were looking for it to be bigger and better. We had some really good feedback in terms of the layout, so I really won't get into the details there, but some people said who were there throughout the days with their family said, oh, it would have been really great if the setup of the performers was over here and it would have complemented this attraction. So that's something for, more for planning in terms of next year. And then I would say one of the bigger pieces of feedback we got was really pushing the event to the end of the summer. I think people were a little tired out from the 4th of July. It didn't impact the turnout. However, I think a lot of people were really saying, hey, is there a way that we can do more as we come into the fall? Because there seems to be a drop-off. But all in all, I'm really satisfied with the results of the study. I think there's a lot that we can build on, and I think that there is a lot of useful information we have going forward. But you guys have any questions?
I think you did a nice job, and the numbers I'm looking at for, like you said, all the points that you just laid out for us, I enjoy looking at. And I think going forward, as you said, with so much going on in Bristol, we already anticipated that. And I think separate and apart as its own separate venue, like you said, families will put together a little getaway just to come for that and not have to leave because they're already on their way out or this other event's going on and they can't make it. But no, thank you for putting this together because I think it was a positive for Bristol. So, and we were very fortunate and happy to have this venue here. So, and from what I'm hearing, with people for many years with this event, I would imagine is better than anticipated at the end of this first, probationary year, right, Doctor? Correct. Yes. Okay.
I just wanted to bring it up. I'm definitely in support of this event. I think it was great. I mean, melding the American culture with the Japanese culture, I think it's amazing. The only thing I would say that I've heard from feedback is the ticket price. Being at $175, it was a little high. So if maybe if there's any ways to work on that, to encourage, to make it a little bit more affordable.
Can you expand? I know what you're talking about. Could you expand on the ticket price?
The ticket is $175.
Meaning for what?
For this event.
For the gala.
No, just for the gala.
It's just for the gala.
not
For the gala.
The rest of it was free.
Yeah.
For the gala.
Okay.
So that was the feedback I had heard. Just that it was.
Yeah, and I also just want to, just for people who I guess didn't know about our sponsorship, we supported the public events that were put on in town, and certainly we were there as advisors, setting up that event. Certainly, I'm sure when their organization is determining pricing for next year, they'll take those recommendations into consideration because they obviously want to make sure that they're attracting members of the community to get involved.
I just think more people you would get a bigger turnout if it came down a little bit more.
Certainly.
Please.
I'd like to just recognize that at the outset I was not excited about the late notice of this coming to Bristol and hesitant to support it. I attended the event and I thought it was fantastic. I think it was incredible having Bristol as the venue for this event. I did attend the gala. It was a fantastic, top-notch event. Seeing military in their dress uniforms, the entertainment was fantastic. So I think this is going to be a great future keynote event, hopefully around the town of Bristol, and I think it definitely deserves continued support in its growth by the town of Bristol.
Yeah,
So
I
a couple
agree.
of things. We started the meeting with a $100,000 savings to some people in Bristol. We're almost finishing the meeting with a $100,000 going back to businesses around town. I wanted to take a couple of moments to kind of give a hats off to the administrator. This was brought to his attention to start this conversation, and I know it was in Newport prior, but hats off to my colleagues because we supported, there was funds that were authorized to spend in support of this, and obviously none of this happens without the hard work from the Black Ships Festival Committee, but it's easier to say no. it's easier just to say, I don't want to do this, it's a chance we want to take, and that did not happen. And it started with the administrator, it moved to the council, and then Chris with all of this hard work, and then, as I said, ultimately the Black Ships Festival Committee did an excellent job. I was there in the beginning when there was some introductions and some explanation about the event at Independence Park, and I said this at the last meeting, the meeting after that, which was, I thought it embodied some wonderful things that maybe we don't have enough of lately, which was respect and celebrating differences, but ultimately done with respect. And I walked away with that of most of all. But Doctor, did you want to share something? Please, and welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First of all, as a Bristol senior citizen, I'd like to express my gratitude to the council for your solicitude towards myself and my wife. We are senior citizens, of course, and proud to be residents of Bristol. I want to mention a little bit about this from not only an economic but from a historical perspective as well. This event had been held in Newport for more than 3 decades, and we have a president who received the Order of the Rising Sun from the Emperor of Japan, very distinguished individual by the name of Spencer Viner, who got into a dispute, not one initiated by him, with the rather obnoxious ceremonial chief executive of Newport. And as a result of that dispute, which erupted earlier in this year, the board gave some consideration to moving the event from Newport. And so it was kind of a last-minute thing in a way. There were some that favored it going to South Kingstown, which is the ancestral home of the Perrys. I'm on the executive board, come from Bristol, historian. I said Bristol is the most historic town, and not only that, but there is a strong connection with the Perrys, and which I would like to speak of and to speak to. And so the board, after some discussion, unanimously voted to come to Bristol. Bob Winnig and myself made a presentation here earlier, but it was late, so to speak, and the program this year was bifurcated. Some of it was held in Newport, some of it was held here. There was a dispute over the Black Ships logo, which belongs to the Japan America Society of Rhode Island, and we actually ended up in federal court with a controversy between the Black Ships Festival and the mayor of Newport, which was resolved ultimately in favor of the Black Ships Festival. And so, very belatedly, we got permission from the council, and I would say you're quite, Mr. Chairman, appropriate in acknowledging the assistance of Steve Carenti, who was very open and welcoming and supportive, and gave us pretty much some enthusiasm to bring this event to Bristol. Everybody said, well, Matthew Calbraith Perry, who's the center of the event, he was born in Newport. True, but the Perry family came from South Kingstown, the village that they call today Perryville. But what most people didn't know, and fortunately I did, being a Bristolian and historian, is that the Perry house over in Silver Creek has more connections with the Perry family than any other structure in Rhode Island. Christopher Perry, who was a Revolutionary War sailor, was captured by the British, interned in Ireland, met an Irish woman by the name of Sarah Wallace Alexander. After the war, he went back to Ireland to bring her to America, married her in Philadelphia, came back to Rhode Island. There were 3 notable sons: Oliver Hazard Perry, Raymond Perry, and Matthew Calbraith Perry. Now, all of them, and Christopher and his wife, Sarah, play a role in Bristol. As early as 1798, Oliver came with Christopher to Warren to build a frigate called the General Green for the quasi-war with France, the limited naval war with France. They stayed in Bristol. Later on, during the War of 1812, Oliver had gone from midshipman to Commodore, won the Battle of Lake Erie, probably the most famous naval battle in all of American history. And Oliver was so highly regarded that James DeWolf, not unknown here in Bristol, decided to have a party because he was the foremost sponsor of privateers in the War of 1812 with the Yankee. So they had the greatest privateersman and the greatest naval hero in 1814. They threw a party in Bristol, and Oliver's young brother Raymond came along, and along with Matthew. And at the party, Raymond met Mary Ann DeWolf. A year later, they were married in St. Michael's Church. And they had come back, actually, to build another ship in the aftermath of the War of 1812, the Chippewa. James DeWolf sponsored that ship and also made the Perry House on Silver Lake available to the entire Perry family, the three brothers and the mother and the father. So they resided there while the Chippewa was under construction. And then when Raymond married Mary Ann, he gave that house to them along with 30 acres. So Raymond Perry and Mary Ann DeWolf Perry lived in that house. Oliver Hazard, until he died in 1819, and Matthew Calebraith were frequent visitors to the Perry House. This was like a second home to them, so to speak, because Matthew especially was mostly at sea. In 1837, when James Perry died, he left Hog Island, right off Bristol Point, to Raymond. And he became known around town as Captain Hog. And the Perry family stayed in that house till 1957. And one of the grandnephews of Oliver and Matthew was James DeWolf Perry, who became the presiding bishop of the Episcopal Church in America, and who will be inducted this November into the Rhode Island Heritage Hall of Fame, and appropriately be inducted in the Bristol State House and Courthouse, along with other distinguished individuals from the early part of the 20th century. The Heritage Harbor Foundation, which I'm fortunate enough to preside over as president, gave a very substantial grant, and we're going to renew that grant this coming year. And in addition, because of the significance of the Perrys and that Perry House, the foundation has also voted to have a very, very large explanatory historical plaque, which we like to put in Thomas Park with, of course, the permission of the council and also the town administrator. So we want to, I would say that the Black Ships is here in Bristol for the foreseeable future. It won't be a bifurcated event this year. It won't be competing with other local events. Hopefully, I'm going to recommend the first weekend after Labor Day. That's still summer. The college kids are back. I think the event will be far greater attended than it was this year because of such short notice. So these are some of the things I wanted to bring to the attention of the council, that this event belongs here. This is not just something that got moved out of Newport because of a dispute, but something that went to where it should have been in the first place, Bristol. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, can I just make a quick comment? Of course. I thank you very much, Pat, because I love listening to you because you know so much. You're so interesting.
If only my wife would say that.
I can't comment on that, but
Tell them once.
I mean, but you know, I went to several of the activities, and I thought every one of them were terrific and very informative. Like I myself did not know like the history of the Black Ships. It's something that I always wanted to go to, but I go like, oh, who wants to go to Newport with like you know in the middle of July, and so I from the kickoff to all of the activities, I thought it was very well done. I was very happy to learn so much about it, and I'm very, 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 very delighted that you brought it to Bristol and that we had the opportunity to give it a go as a first year, and that it will continue, and that it went so well. Thank you so much.
And one thing about the Black Ships, they asked, where are the Black Ships? The reason they were called Black Ships...
Can you go up to the mic?
The reason that they were called Black Ships by the Japanese was because in our ships we use pitch and tar and resin naval stores to seal against leaks, whereas the Japanese had more tightly fitting crafted ships. And so when Perry's fleet came in 1854, and a couple of other ships had come earlier, the Japanese, because of the pitch and the tar, the darkness of them, call them the black ships. That's the reason for that particular name. One person asked me if they might be slave ships or something. I said, no, no, no. These were ships that were crafted with naval stores.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's very interesting.
Now,
So-
Gail, that was interesting. You could tell him.
She gave you one.
Thanks again.
That's- yeah, that was
Want
excellent.
a motion to receive and file the presentation?
Second?
There's a motion and a second. I'll add one piece, is that 4th of July committee, Fran O'Donnell had actually reached out to me and asked about this study. They are working with Roger Williams University, and hopefully this will also dovetail to look at what things like this and how it impacts, and they want to look at it as how it can impact the 4th of July. So we'll be forwarding this off to them so they can use this. So this not only supported this, but this is going to help support some other things that they're looking at. So thank you for your hard work on this. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is bid 890. That's for the Bristol Maritime Center Phase 3 Masonry Stabilization. There were 2 bids received. The first is from Contracting Specialists Incorporated of Attleboro, Massachusetts, in the amount of $236,240. And the second one is from Folan Waterproofing and Construction Company Incorporated of Southeastern Massachusetts in the amount of $101,700.
Diane, I just have a question about this bid. Is this the repointing? The last phase of repointing?
Yes, it's actually a little bit more than repointing. It's the last phase of the stabilization of the building, similar to what we did with the Maritime restoration. There were, if you recall, some sections that just were not as high a priority and we didn't have the funding for. So we got a grant from the Rhode Island Historic Preservation and Heritage Commission. We were able to use the money that the town already spent as pre-award match. So this will hopefully allow us to finish the building, and all the structural work will be done.
So that was where I was going with many conversations with the repointing in the walls and the funding, whether it be from the original bond, whether it be from the boating infrastructure, and then later we talked about the historic grant. So do we still have funds available, speaking of which, of this final phase?
So is this covered by the grant?
Do we have funds that we talked about as a council, anticipating all the phases that we talked about? It was like the last meeting, I think, was in 2016.
So the grant was for $150,000. So it definitely covers the base bid, and then we'll look to see if we can do the alternate 1 and 2. I think it will include 1.
Yeah, that's
Within the grant, and 2, we would need to see if we could use some of the public bond money to just be totally done with everything out there.
all right. I just wanted to know if it was outside the scope of that last wall that we had discussed, and if there was other stuff that we should be aware of on top of that. That's
Right,
the point of my
right.
questioning right now. I mean, I see the bid, but if there was anything extra that this council, we had many conversations about, and the monies that were appropriated, I think we should have been aware. That's why I'm asking. That's all.
Right, right. And the low bid is, I think, with definitely 1 and 2 within the budget, and then, like I said, if that alternate 2 slightly over, we'll have to see if we can
Okay, great.
do that as well. It would be nice to be totally done. Yeah.
Agreed.
Oh, I agree.
So we need a motion.
Motion to refer to the town administrator and the director of community development to act in the best interest of the town with the bids.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is the periodic report from the Bristol County Water Authority Director Alan Klepper.
Motion to receive and file.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next 2 items are executive session requests, so we will take those up at the conclusion of the public agenda. We next have the individual council member agenda items, beginning with the chairman.
Before we go there, you said 2. I have 1 on my copy here. Was there 2?
Yeah, there was
I know that there was supposed to be. I just wanted to make sure we didn't have to take steps.
It definitely was. It was. I think it was emailed to you separately after the agenda went out, so it's probably.
It's here.
It is here.
Excellent.
Okay.
So it's prerogative section. My prerogative for this evening was actually to talk about prerogatives. I know, interesting enough, right? The prerogatives at the end were designed and have been, at least the past practice has been to maybe share the sadness of someone's passing or the happiness of someone's birthday or some wonderful thing that's happened, or to ask for focus on a particular item. For example, the storm drain that isn't functioning correctly. But I've asked the solicitor to just kind of encapsulate what's appropriate and what's not. So, for example, it's not okay to have additional conversation because we want to have everything advertised. And what I mean by that is if we're talking about something that somebody was interested in, it's important that we advertise and give someone the heads up to be in attendance if they wanted to share something. So, Mike, could you kind of elaborate on that just a little bit?
Sure. Mr. Chair, I think you did a great job in really explaining what the purpose of the prerogatives was. When we start going down a road where there's discussion and then there's feedback, that then gets into an open meetings issue. And if you recall at the last meeting, after 2 or 3 volleys back and forth, I asked that you add the topic to the agenda so you could officially discuss it. I think in your minds, if there's something that you would like to see full council deliberation on, the prerogative comment should be, I would like to see this on the next agenda and direct it to administration, as opposed to trying to have the conversation within the prerogatives. That way we don't run into any open meeting issues.
Thank you, Mike. I'm all set. Good night, everyone.
Mr. Sweeney.
Yeah, just wanted to remind everybody the Rally for Recovery will be this Saturday, September 22nd from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m., and it'll be at the Bristol Town Common. So come out, show your support for non-drug-related activities. I think, Chief, you guys will be there in full gala, and it's a great event. So if you can make it, I checked the weather, it still looks good, so if you can make it, get out there. Thank you, and have a good night.
Mr. Tiska.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I just would like to take this opportunity to talk about seniors a little bit more. I read the percentage as far as our population being 25% seniors. The average percentage in other communities is 20%. So Bristol, seniors love Bristol. We have more seniors here on average than other communities. And I think that's something to take note of. The diversity of the needs of the seniors are important as well. 26% of our seniors live at home alone. And so there's a lot of opportunity in this town to get support services. And I think there's a lot of opportunity to continue to collaborate on those services. In our comprehensive plan, it talks about an increase in the senior population. So we can look forward to more seniors being part of our community and more opportunities for young people to hopefully engage with seniors, and more opportunities for seniors to take advantage of some of the great programs. I want to take this opportunity also to recognize the efforts of the staff at the Benjamin Church Senior Center. Those efforts led to the awarding of a grant from the Rhode Island Foundation, and that grant will allow the hiring of a professional consultant to conduct a townwide assessment on senior services here, and then also make recommendations on how we can continue to meet the needs in the future. So I look forward to the results of this study, and look forward to participating in trying to make sure that the needs of our seniors are continued to be met across the town. So congratulations to everyone from the Benjamin Church Senior Center in helping to pull this together, and I think the whole town will benefit as a result of it. Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Ms. Perella.
Thank you. Well, just by way of update, and Lou, I will ask you to put this on the next agenda as well, but I just wanted to update you on the Pink Bag Project, which is, if you recall, last winter probably or something, I brought this issue up in terms of textile recycling. And textile recycling is, textiles are pretty heavy, and so anything that we can get out of our landfill is a great thing because of the cost of our tipping fees. So this is a program that is around the country, and it's possible, it's free to us, and it's possible because they were going to be putting a like a center in Taunton, and that is the reason that we were able to get on board with this in various communities in Rhode Island. And it's not just recycling, it's mostly textiles, but it's also household goods. And I'll go over at the next meeting, like, those issues again. But they had a delay in the Taunton facility up until August. And so until that was open, we could not participate. So now that is up and running. We had a conference call last week, Kevin, myself, Steve, and with one of the people from the recycling, and they are moving this along. They do all the public relations for the community, and so we're aiming for October 29th as the first week that this would be out there. And the way this goes is whatever your trash is, if you have a pink bag of that stuff, they will come along separately and in vehicles and pick that up and bring it to their recycling center. It basically follows our own trash pickup. So right now they're printing the cards. So 2 weeks before the first kickoff day, there'll be a card just announcing it and letting people know what they need to do. And then that would be 2 weeks prior, and then 1 week prior they'll send out the bags. And so hopefully it won't get lost in the shuffle of all the campaign literature, but it's out there. The only thing that we're just waiting to confirm, that date looks pretty solid. We're just waiting for some of the our trash district maps. And so we'll know for sure at the next meeting. And I'll go over some of the other stuff and looking through some of their PowerPoint presentations and materials, see if there's some of it we can pull out as, posters or signs, because it's a lot of other material that you can do from your home. Because a lot of it, as I mentioned when I first brought this up, there's a lot of different graphics on where the stuff goes, but a lot of it ends up in places like Savers. And so it's other items, toys, things like that for, that you may want to be getting rid of from your home, as well as the clothing and the textiles. And so I just want to bring you up to date on that. And Lou, if you could put that on the next agenda, I'll talk in more detail. Thank you.
Mr. Stewart.
Since our last meeting, I just want to publicly congratulate Aaron Myers. Most of us were in attendance to another Eagle Scout at Troop 6. Before you know it, the whole troop is going to be Eagle Scouts, which we're very proud of in the community. That's a happy note. On a sad note, there's a gentleman that served many years for the town of Bristol for the Public Works, and many of us knew him. He had a lot of stories. I looked forward to his stories. He was very involved many years as a lifetime firefighter. And then when he retired, he worked down Roger Williams University, and that's John Valleca. So our condolences to him and his family. He was just a happy-go-lucky guy, and if you got to hear his stories, you didn't mind staying and listening, and he enjoyed telling them. So just our condolences with that. Just thank you, Mike Davis, Sergeant Arms, Archie Martins, and everybody who came out tonight, department heads, and everybody tuning in at home. Have a great night.
Town Administrator, agenda items.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank Dr. Conley for sharing his research and all those years of history that he has. Clearly an educator. Thank you. Today we celebrated the recognition and a new tier with our flood plain. But I also want to state that we have a lot more work to do, and I don't want the residents of Bristol who have their streets flooded on a regular basis feel as if they're forgotten. They certainly aren't. We've hired a wetlands biologist to do some work up in the Leela Jean area. Fairview Avenue's starting actually next week, drainage improvements there. There's several other areas. We have the list, and we're acting on them. I always like to say, if it's broken, we're going to fix it, and we're slowly going in that direction. Some other good news regarding drainage. We received Monday an award of $300,000 for the work at the golf course. Again, the golf course is ours. It's a public golf course, privately managed, but we own it, and we're going to improve it. So we're very proud of that. We want to thank Senator Reed for that. Again, that is part of Silver Creek, upstream of Silver Creek. So slowly we're improving our drainage throughout town. Another good thing that's happening, our fire chief and one of our volunteer fire captains are going out to inspect our new fire engine that's being built. That's a Smeal fire engine. I know I've mentioned it before. That's to replace engine 3, which is 25 years old now. It's hard to believe that they're 25 years old, but because they're kept clean and shiny and polished, but they're starting to wear. So that'll replace engine 3. It should be in a few weeks. They're just going to check on the final order before it's shipped. Other than that, that's all I have, and have a great evening.
Can I just mention one thing? I'm sorry.
Of course.
I just wanted to just mention that many of us, mostly all of us, were at the dedication of the post office on Sunday, dedicated to Sergeant Andrew McKenna, who is truly a hero, local Bristol resident who was killed in Afghanistan, basically saving his camp from the insurgents. And it was such a wonderful event to be down there. Everyone did such a great job. I mean, the street was blocked off, their seating, it was, lots of people came, and I think that was just a wonderful tribute. And I just wanted to make mention of that because it was, I know there's been a lot of stuff on Facebook that shows some of the photos, and I'm sure I'm sure the paper tomorrow will have a lot of information. But it was just a very fitting tribute to a local person and someone who has done so much in his military career. From everything you hear and read about Andrew, is that he was a highly decorated soldier, a true leader, and a true American hero now. So I just
Thank you
wanted
for
to mention
sharing that,
Thank
Mary.
you.
It's very appropriate.
Next, the motion would be to convene into executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42465A5 relative to the lease of real property, the former Minturn Farm landfill for a solar project, and the lease or sale of the Gooding Avenue property.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Good night, everyone.